But the Greek Orthodox Church, they have a name for the woman at the well. They actually have, maybe even historically, have given her name as Photini. Photini couldn't recall exactly when she heard the news, but what she heard she would never forget. No, it can't be true, she cried, nearly dropping her empty water jar as her friend, Sarah, breathlessly and pale, delivered the unthinkable news. He's dead, Photini. Crucified by the Romans, Sarah sobbed. My husband Joseph saw it all. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they worked together to have him arrested just after Pesach. Joseph was in Jerusalem on business, and he saw everything. Photini clutched her friend's hands, drawing out every painful detail that she could give her. They had been more than friends since those unforgettable days when the Master had come to her city, telling about he being the Messiah. Jacob's well, on that blistering hot day that had turned into a holy day indeed. Yeshua had told her everything she had done. Well, not everything, but enough. Enough to convince her that the prophet from Nazareth indeed was the promised one. He had spoken to her not only of her past, but of his purpose to restore worship in the Father through the Spirit of truth. As the women wept and spoke, and then spoke and wept, Photini glanced down at her jar, empty. Just as she had been that day, that sacred encounter occurred. Before that day, he had filled her soul. She had never been so alone, despite the 5 husbands, despite the man that she lived with but was not her husband. And yet, whenever he came and changed her day, she had gained a family, sisters and brothers like Sarah, like Joseph. Joseph was there, Sarah whispered, and he said that Yeshua looked like death even before he died. Beaten so badly, if he hadn't spoken, Joseph would have thought that he was already gone. Photini looked at him. He spoke? From the cross? What did he say? Her voice cracked. What could he have possibly said? Sarah hesitated, then shared what Joseph had told her. How he had refused the sour wine only to comfort such a cruel death. Photini had seen crucifixions before, brutal, public. A Roman warning all, Jew and Samaritans alike, do not cross the Roman government. And just before he died, Sarah said softly, he said, I thirst. No, Photini collapsed in Sarah's arms. The younger woman could have been her daughter, more than a sister, than all of her sisters had ever been, and more of a friend than any husband had ever been. The one who had given her the living water had died asking for a drink, just as he had done with Photini so many years before. He said he thirsted, she whispered again. I had to tell you, Sarah said gently, unsure whether the words could reach through the sobs. He took the vinegar the second time was offered, just enough to cry out one last time. Photini imagined the scene, the agony, the silence, and then Sarah added almost reverently, but Joseph said he didn't die like other men. He died as if he chose the moment, calm, in control. He even cared for his own mother, speaking to young John. John was there, even though he spoke kindly to the criminals beside him. He asked the Father to forgive the ones who nailed him there. Photini was stunned, not just because he had died, but how he had died. With that same authority, with that same peace, with that same love he had shown at the well. She remembered the first words he ever said to her. Give me a drink, not harsh, not demanding, but firm, familiar, as if she had always known his voice. And that she wondered, why would a Jew speak to her? Why would a Jew speak to a Samaritan, a woman of her shameful past? She had never forgot what he saw in her thirst, not for water, but for truth, but for love, for God, not in men, not in religion, but in him. She had a thirst. She followed him to Galilee, heard him say he was the bread of life, and that whoever came to him would never hunger or thirst again. It was true. His words had quenched her soul. She had heard the living water flowing from the hearts of those who believed. Now her tears flowed freely, but she feared the drought that was soon to come. Photini stood. She wiped her eyes. She searched her memory, straining for every word he had spoken to her and to her village. So, it's finished, she murmured. Bitterness threatened to rise, but it didn't come. Photini had no hatred. She had no rage. Even in death, at the hands of her enemies, could not extinguish the love that he had poured out into her heart. His words still lived. His love still flowed. Her fountain was not dry. She looked down at her empty jar, picked it up, and started walking towards Jacob's well again. Thank you, Sarah. Go in peace. She walked away, her head spinning, her heart aching, her thoughts racing. But her eyes were strangely dry. Her back was straight, her head held high. Sarah watched her go, and then she called out, trembling, Photini, wait! There's one more thing I haven't told you. Something that I could hardly believe myself. But I was afraid to tell you because I didn't know if you would believe it either. Photini turned. She listened. And she believed. She believed Jesus would rise again. Can I tell you about my Jesus? He was a human being. He was God, yes, but he thirsted. He hungered, even on the cross.